The hospital wing locks down 3 months before you're born. Samsung Medical Center's entire 7th floor becomes a fortress. Your mother is 6 months pregnant when your father wins the Blue House, which means you inherit a security detail before your first breath. Armed guards at every entrance. Cameras in corridors that will never be turned off again. President Lee Jae-myung takes office on June 4, 2025. You arrive 2 months later, and the nation watches. Not because they chose to, but because your existence is now public property. The pediatrician who delivers you has been vetted by the National Intelligence Service for 8 weeks. Your first cry echoes through a room where 3 photographers are positioned at approved angles. Within 90 minutes, your face trends across every social media platform in Asia. But you're 4 days old and 12 million people have already seen you. You didn't ask for this, you couldn't have. But the opinions started forming anyway. Your childhood happens inside the Blue House, a complex that feels more like a government installation than a home, which, technically, it is. There's a garden, sure, beautiful even, but you can't just run outside. Every door requires clearance. Every hallway has personnel who nod politely but never really relax around you. The Presidential Security Service assigns you a code name when you're 5. They call you Hichi, after the mythical guardian beast. You think it sounds cool until you understand what it actually means. You're not a kid with a nickname. You're a tactical asset requiring round-the-clock protection protocols. There are agents who will die for you. And not because they know you personally, but because their job description mandates it. That's the first time you grasp what you actually represent. You're not just the president's son. You're a liability that walks and talks. School becomes a negotiation between your parents and reality. Option 1 is an international school in Seoul, where your attendance transforms the entire campus into a security zone. Metal detectors appear overnight. Other parents sign documents promising discretion. Your classmates can't invite you anywhere without 2 weeks advance notice for background checks on their entire family. Option 2 is private tutors rotating through the Blue House, which means you grow up knowing more about constitutional law than you do about making friends your own age. So, option 3 is a prestigious boarding school where the security service rents an adjacent building and monitors every conversation you have through methods you're better off not knowing about. Your parents choose option 1. The result is predictable. You're different and everyone knows it. Teachers speak to you like you're made of glass. Some kids desperately want to be your friend, but you can tell it's not really about you. Others avoid you completely because their parents have strong opinions about your father's policies, and children inherit their parents' politics before they inherit anything else. Your first real understanding of what privacy costs happens at age 7. You're at a classmate's apartment, just hanging out, and you mention something casual your dad said about trade negotiations with Japan. Nothing classified. On just dinner table talk. 4 hours later, it's a headline on Naver News. Your friend's parents didn't mean harm. They were excited, proud even that the president's son had been in their home. But you learn the lesson that will define your entire life. Every word you speak can become public record. Every moment can be monetized, analyzed, weaponized. Nothing is ever truly private. At 9 years old, you start having a schedule that looks like a cabinet minister's itinerary. State dinners where you stand next to your father, tie uncomfortably tight, smile carefully rehearsed. Foreign dignitaries visit and you're there, shaking hands with people who control economies and armies. Your friends are playing StarCraft. You're learning which bow is appropriate for which visiting delegation so you don't accidentally create a diplomatic incident. Your father calls it character building. You call it unpaid labor with no resignation option. At 12, you discover Twitter. Your father just vetoed a bill that half the country wanted, and you make the mistake of searching your family name. 30 minutes later, you're staring at your bedroom ceiling, processing things no child should read about their own father. Threats, accusations, wishes for harm detailed enough to make you nauseous. You try bringing it up at dinner. Your father sighs, says it comes with the position, and changes the subject. Your mother reaches across the table and squeezes your hand, but doesn't say anything. You realize then that they know. They've always known. And somehow, that makes it worse. Because if they know, and they chose this anyway, what does that make you? A choice they made? A sacrifice they calculated? The questions don't have good answers, but they're the questions that will follow you for the rest of your life. Adolescence offers exactly one escape route: online gaming. It's the only space in the world where you're not the president's son. You're just a username, a rank, a player who either carries the team or gets flamed in chat like everyone else. For 2 years, your closest friend is some guy from Busan who calls you trash whenever you miss a skill shot. He has no idea who's behind the screen. It's the most honest relationship you've ever had. Your first girlfriend gets her entire digital footprint excavated by entertainment news sites within 36 hours. So her father's business dealings are investigated. Political commentators debate whether her family's background is appropriate for someone in your position. The relationship doesn't end because you fought. It ends because she can't handle strangers dissecting her childhood photos and speculating about her intentions. That's when you understand the real cost. Anyone who gets close to you inherits your cage. At 15, you attend a state funeral at Seoul National Cemetery. You're standing in formation while a flag is folded, handed to a widow whose husband died in a training accident. You never met this soldier, but the widow looks at you for just a second, and you have no idea what that look means or what you're supposed to do with it. You're there because declining isn't really an option when your father's office sends the schedule. And everyone processes grief differently. You're apparently supposed to process it on camera. Everyone promises college will be different. You choose a university in the States, hoping distance creates freedom. But the security service detail expands to match the threat assessment. Your roommate's background check takes 4 months. Professors either treat you like fragile china or bend over backward, proving they're not giving special treatment, which is itself special treatment. You make friends, real ones, but there's always a gap. They edit themselves around you. They know words can travel. You realize authentic friendship requires equality, and you'll never have that. You're always the former president's son first, a person second. Then you have to consider what comes next. If you enter politics, every decision gets measured against your father's legacy. Every speech compared. Every policy proposal becomes about family continuation rather than individual merit. If you go private sector, they'll say you're exploiting the name for profit. Philanthropy, reputation management, art, or music. Nobody will take it seriously. Every single path has already been defined by someone else's choices. And the cruelest part? You can't even complain publicly without seeming ungrateful for advantages most people can't imagine having. At 23, the security service asks an unexpected question. Formal protection is ending. From now on, it's optional. You can keep the detail or go without. It's the first real choice anyone's given you about your own safety. You stand there staring at the agent, unable to answer immediately. Because you genuinely don't know what it feels like to walk outside without someone positioned within response range. You have no memory of that. It never existed. You decide to try. An apartment lease signed in your name in a city where nobody's waiting. No agents outside the door, no cameras in the corridor. For the first time in your entire life, you walk into a space and there's nobody monitoring it. You sit on the floor because furniture hasn't arrived yet, and you wait for something to happen. Nothing does. Then you realize you don't know what to do with silence. You were never taught. Since birth, someone was always within 40 meters, monitoring every room. Silence was supposed to feel like freedom. Instead, it feels like an empty room you don't know how to fill. You spend that first night on the floor. Your body doesn't recognize what being truly alone means. At 31, President Lee Jae-myung begins his term. Your father's been out of office for years now, but the name still carries weight. Still opens certain doors, still closes others. You visit him on an ordinary Wednesday. No special occasion. He answers the door himself, wearing slippers, looking smaller than memory suggests. The house is quiet in a way the Blue House never was. You have coffee and he asks about your life, in the same measured tone he used with foreign ministers. And you realize he doesn't know another way, that maybe he lost something too. You are the president's son. You carry a name that precedes you into every room, defines you before you speak. You've learned to live with it the way you learned to live with security details, accepting it's part of the landscape without it necessarily being part of you. This is your world, and in it, you remain the most recognized and least known person anywhere you go. Maybe you go into politics, maybe you don't. Either way, the first line of every article about you is already written. The headline was composed before you could walk. Every day forward is another day carrying a surname that arrived before choice existed, inside a narrative that started with your first breath and has no scheduled conclusion. You've considered changing your name. Legally, it's possible. Practically, it's pointless. You could call yourself anything, move anywhere, but the internet is permanent and memory is long. Someone will always know. Someone will always make the connection. The name isn't something you wear. And it's something written into your DNA, your dental records, your entire documented existence. So you make peace with what you can't change. You build a life inside the margins of what's possible. You find people who see past the surname, even if they can never fully forget it. You pursue work that means something to you, knowing it will always be analyzed through a lens you didn't choose. Your father's term ends. Another president moves into the Blue House. Your security classification gets downgraded in databases you'll never access. But you're still the son of a president, and that particular status has no expiration date. You are the most recognized and least known person in any room you enter. And somehow you've learned to live inside that contradiction. Not comfortably, not happily, but you've learned. And that's the only victory available in a life that was never entirely yours to begin with.